Hi, I'm Dr. Cindy Dupuy. I have a PhD in learning disabilities. I do assessment, a little bit of intervention, and a little bit of advocacy for individuals and families. And I am also an adult with dyslexia and dysgraphia.
Hi, my name is Kim Sharman. I am a reading and writing remediation specialist, and I've been doing this for 15 years. I work with kids from kindergarten through college.
Okay. And today you had a very specific request.
Dysgraphia, please.
Why?
Ugh. Because I feel like when parents have children that have been diagnosed with dysgraphia, they don't quite understand the impact that it has on the child. I'm not sure they're getting the right accommodations. And I don't think the student really understands what it means. And a lot of people think it just has to do with handwriting, having sloppy handwriting. And I feel it is very impactful to the kids' success and self-image to understand what it means and get the right help and the right accommodations.
Okay. We are going to try and do an amazing job today and keep ourselves to a shorter presentation so that we don't lose everybody because we go on and on. So let's talk up front about the 6 component parts of writing. Now, most parents are like, Cindy, you're going too fast, because I go handwriting, spelling, mechanics, grammar, cohesion, coherence, which is why I have them all written down. Because this is what I did my dissertation on. So handwriting is, how do I get the symbols from my head down onto the paper? So do I make my letters correctly? Kim, what is the spelling piece? What's involved in spelling for kids?
The spelling piece is understanding the rules of spelling and being able to smoothly output words and being able to spell correctly so that their thought process is not constantly being interrupted by spelling of words on paper.
And I will tell you, as an adult with dysgraphia and dyslexia, I will often modify what I'm writing because I can't spell a target word. I will intentionally go and think about words that I can spell, that are synonyms that I can substitute in and still get to the same meaning, because I can't get to the word that I want to use unless I turn on dictation or other things are going on. Okay, mechanics. Name is more complex, actually really straightforward. It's the capitalization and punctuation. Syntax, give us syntax.
It's a tricky word, but grammar, would this be an example of subject verb agreement? Would it be the order of the words? Does it make sense the way they're trying to express themselves?
It also includes sentence fragments and run-on sentences. So you just encapsulated it beautifully. Now, the last two I will take because I know they drive you nuts. What's the difference between cohesion and coherence? Cohesion is, am I explaining where we're going so you can follow what I'm saying in writing? And coherence is, can you understand what's actually written? Now, we actually went over a student's writing together the other day. They wrote a very complex paragraph. And the first thing that you said after reading like the first sentence and a half is, I'm wondering about this. And then the student went on to actually accurately explain what was going on. So there was an initial like little blip of where are we going? But then it like fed in and you're like, oh, I get it. That's beautiful. Amazing. That was the cohesion coherence part. And we've got to be able to follow where we're going to go. And the argument has to be clear and obvious to the reader. Okay. So it's great that we know these 6 component parts, but then we have another really critical piece. Now, Kim, what's your definition of working memory? Give us your parent explanation of working memory.
The ability to hold all these thoughts and all these sub skill sets simultaneously as you're writing in your head, and to do something out with it and making it come out of your hand. But that working memory is so overloaded with so many different subset skills that all need to be used simultaneously.
So we regularly measure working memory when we work with kids. A classic example is I read you a series of numbers and you have to repeat the numbers back to me in reverse order, or I read you a series of numbers and you have to sort and sequence the numbers, which can also be tricky in a different way. So getting information in, doing something with it, and then spitting it back out. So when we just talked on the previous slide about all of these 6 component parts, when we have kids with dyslexia and dysgraphia, they typically have weak working memory. So holding all 6 pieces is next to impossible. And that's why we see the crash and burn. Now, one of the ways we create crash and burn is visual motor integration. Now, you've seen this. What do you see with kids when they try and draw things? And I'm sorry, my drawings are not perfect, but you get the idea.
So when oftentimes they will be given something called a Beery visual motor integration test, and they have trouble staying on the lines. They have trouble creating the designs in a symmetrical fashion. There's a lot of difficulty with spatial orientation, and also the physical command of their brain talking to their fingers to produce the output that you're asking for.
And how do you see that represented in handwriting?
Oh boy. With dysgraphia, you can tell when the child, first of all, the illegibility of each letter has to be created in a certain manner. These kids don't know where to begin the letter, so they'll change where they start the creation of the letter all the time. They also have difficulty with space, symmetry, and making all the letters be a similar size. They have trouble with words melding into each other on the line. So there's no spacing, there's no lexicon for the word where the word has a space in between. So the difficulty of producing these letters is quite overwhelming. They don't know where margins are. They can't estimate when the word ends at the end of the sentence. So it's dragging and dripping off the line.
Yeah, that cracks me up where it like goes, and then as they start going around the corner, they're like, "Oh, I'm gonna just keep going." It's like, wait.
So that visual spatial, I don't know if it's visual spatial too, but difficulty with estimation of where they are in space sometimes.
Okay, so visual motor integration, along with all of the characteristics of dyslexia, can overload working memory when we're trying to go right. Let me say that one more time. Visual motor integration and a lot of the characteristics of dyslexia overwhelm working memory when they're going to write, and they can't integrate all of those processes simultaneously. So
it's a lot of stuff at once. The dyslexia is impacting the dysgraphia and
Okay, now you asked me to give you a better explanation of what this means when we say working memory is overloaded. And the analogy that it came up with that's not perfect, though, is like you have a pot of stew and it's got big pieces and little pieces. It's got a ton of stuff in it. And you hand it to somebody and you pour it through their hands. And what can they catch and how much can they catch? And there are some kids that when they hold it, their fingers are like this, and it's more like everything just flows through and they catch nothing. They might catch a little potato or a little meat or something that sticks to their hands, but not a lot gets held. You also have kids that can hold it very tightly, and they might get a lot of fluid temporarily and a couple big chunks, but then everything kind of goes over the edge. And the idea is that dysgraphia causes different amounts of how much can I hold and deal with? Where do I begin to lose things and drop things out? Or where do I have such limited capacity that I really just can't hold very much? Is why we get the results in the written production that we get.
When you're saying that, Cindy, just to make sure that people understand, we're referring back to that initial screen that had all this, was it 6 or 7 subset skills?
6. Handwriting,
6.
spelling, mechanics, grammar, cohesion, coherence. Okay.
And those skills are the pieces flowing through her fingers.
Yeah. Now, fortunately, we have a great activity on how do you understand what it feels like to have dysgraphia. So what we want you to do, this is going to be a 2-part process, is go grab a piece of paper and a pencil, and you need something flat to write on. So don't try and like do this in your lap. If you got a clipboard, great. If you've got a dry erase as a foundation, if you can just move your laptop out of the way so that you've got enough desktop, that's great. Pause this, go get what you need, and come right back. Okay, so this is a 2-part process. So part 1 is we are going to ask you to write a sentence. And the words that you're going to use in your sentence are man, run, and hat. Now, a simple sentence that you can use, you could write using those 3 words will be the man will run to get a hat. I don't want you to write a simple sentence. I want you to write a long, complex, interesting sentence that an English teacher would love to read because it's scintillating and full of rich detail. There's lots of juicy, great words in there, and we would be like, wow, what a great sentence. Okay, so we're going to give you a little bit of time to do that, and Kim and I are actually going to do it on our end as well while you are writing. So grab your pen and paper and go ahead, write your sentence using the 3 words. Put the words in any order to write your sentence. Kim, you had a good spot. You almost done?
I don't think it's very good, but I'm going to say, I'll say it.
All right. Well, if you're at a place where you can end, great. If you need a
Okay.
couple more sentences, just hit pause.
I'm fine.
All right. So how was that for you? Pretty easy?
Yeah.
Pretty delicious?
Not sure how delicious, but I did fine.
Okay, I wrote, the man with the large black cowboy hat will run quickly to catch the horses, fleeing the wolf who was waiting to catch a horse.
Wow. Okay. I was thinking of an old man, the overwhelmed old man, while racing across the London Bridge, lost his hat in a windstorm.
I love it. You actually gave us a more complex syntactic structure. That's beautiful. Okay. So, challenge part 1 done. Hold that sentence somewhere. Do not erase. Do not lose it. Now we're going to do the same task again, but we're going to do it slightly different. So now you're going to use the word dog, walk, and ball. Same task, but we want you to change hands. So if you're right-handed, go left. If you're left-handed, go right. I'm going to encourage you to keep going until you actually produce a sentence. Again, if you need more time, hit pause in the video, and we are off.
Okay.
Okay, I'm about done. How about you?
Yeah, and I want to show them my handwriting too.
Absolutely. All right. So let's stop share here for a second. If you need a couple minutes to finish or a few more seconds to finish your sentence, hit pause. If not, let's jump in. Kim, show us your sentences.
Can you see it?
Oh my goodness. That's beautiful. Where's your first one? Give us a comparison.
Well, that I didn't totally finish it, but at least it's more
Yeah, coherent. Yeah.
Yeah, but this was very difficult,
And
and
looks like a little kid's writing, right? Here's
does.
mine, right?
Let's see it.
So my red one is the first one, right? Even though I've got some grammatical or spelling letter
Actually,
formation.
not bad, that second one. You know, the cursive actually makes it a bit more readable.
Yeah, it does, but it's still.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I was actually really determined to try and get to a longer sentence. And I was like, nope, I'm done. Nothing more is coming out. How about you? What were you feeling while you were doing it?
I was trying to use a fancy word like approach, but that kind of sucked me dry. And yeah, it is exhausting. And yeah, all my efforts were going into forming the letters.
It's amazing. Like your working memory just goes a bloop. So that feeling in the moment of I don't have any more, right? That's where you've drained your working memory. All the stew has run through your hands, and you might have a couple of really delicious pieces there, but not a lot left, right? I think the thing that strikes me about your second one, what was your sentence, by the way?
The anxious dog walked slowly as he approached the ball.
And in your first sentence, you did this really nice embedded clause in there. You had really good syntactic complexity.
Yeah, there was more, and there was more visual imagery in the first. I mean, the overwhelmed man, while racing across the London Bridge, lost his hat in a windstorm. You know,
Yeah,
lot more stuff going on.
So handwriting was affected, spelling was affected for me. Mechanics, I chose to write simply so I wouldn't have to worry too much about mechanics. Grammar, we chose simpler grammatical structures, and we didn't work on cohesion and coherence just because it was a really simple passage. But can you imagine if you actually had to write a paragraph on a topic?
And can you imagine if you had to take notes in class? Can you imagine writing a whole paper like this? Can you imagine taking a test in class with this type of?
I can, because I lived it. So yeah, I can imagine. Yeah, I still have the situation where I take notes on an individual who is coming in to meet me for assessment, and for some reason I need to share my notes with somebody else and nobody can read my notes. So I live this on a day-to-day basis. I get it.
Yeah.
And with that, that's kind of dysgraphia in a nutshell. We'll go back and do some more work and kind of build things out a little bit so people have more depth and breadth of understanding as we go on. Thank you.